6 o'clock. I'll call to order the regular council meeting, City of Biwabik. Shannon, roll call. Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 4, agenda approval. This includes any consent agenda items you wish to be pulled. We will add that as 6A. Any other changes? Motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion by Councilor Nemi, second by Councilor Berg to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Routine items to be approved. I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda. There's a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. There's a 3-year contract? 3? 2. 1 full year. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, consent agenda items. 6A, Councilor Nemi requested the amenities committee or report be pulled.
Oh, okay, under the pavilion, the second bullet, it says the door locks still need replacing, the north parking lot doors require zip ties, yes, zip ties to keep them open, and the kitchen keys are obsolete and unable to copy. It recommends that the replacement of kitchen locks and installation of key fob access. I've already found the zip locks are there, but I would like the council to direct Jeff to take care of this, these locks on the doors in the kitchen. It's been since August of September in the amenities report, and it hasn't been done. I'd like the council to, I recommend that the council recommend Jeff to take care of this. Within the month. That's beautiful. Yeah, you're talking about upgrade, actually. Yeah. So replace the door locks.
But with the current mechanical keys, or with the upgrade, but to do the upgrade is probably quite expensive and doable within that time frame. But to replace that door in kind as is would be doable within that time frame. Still a decent amount of money, but we can get the crash bar fixed and get new keys and new lock sets, but we wouldn't be able to switch to key fob system.
So it would just change the time. We do need to get it done, right? Yeah, if they're not working.
The option would be to replace it with what's there already. The key, a metal key that you can start locking, all that stuff. Replace that, or replace that with an updated key fob system where you're not using the
Okay. What do you recommend? So I'd like to know, is it being the whole citywide, well,
And so, Mayor and Council, I don't want to make your motion for you or change your motion too much. But we could get the lock company of this or double glass door for a final opinion of can you make this work? Fix the internals in the crash bar that are either worn out or stripped. Can you make this work? And then also get ready to get bids or quotes from the vendors that do the pump system.
so you're saying,
And if oh, sorry.
get the lock refurbished, okay, get them working, and then get an estimate for new lock, which would include the whole city.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes. And it is possible that either this lock or Gilbert glass door come up and take a look at it and say, there's nothing we can do here. Like it once for to replace it and kind of buy one for $4,000 or $5,000, what that's the only that work problem. But we don't know until they do it.
I personally think this needs to be taken care of. I don't mind the suggestion of having them refurbished if they can. We need to get them fixed. And that's just my opinion, one council. I don't know how the other council.
Well, I would say at least get them inspected, looked at, and get fixed for the time being, and then we can also later on do the better upgrades to them for this, get them working for them.
Sounds good.
That'd be done.
I would agree that we need to get the door fixed so we're not tying it with zip ties. And definitely as a part of our looking at our city buildings, that we're going to have to look at a bigger picture item on the fob access. That's rather expensive. So, so by general consent, I will direct the administrator to look into getting the door fixed and start the process on a citywide fob access. I'll need a motion to file the amendments report. We have a motion and second to file the amenities report with the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, presentations. Matt Reed. Matt, when you come up, can you please hit the green button? So you can live? How's that? Working?
It's kind of nice having a new podium that actually doesn't fall over. Good evening, everyone. So I guess the purpose of my discussion tonight is to talk about the upcoming citywide reconstruction phase 6 project. There are some agenda items a little bit farther down, and that's what this is really pertaining to. So there's a couple of things on the docket for tonight for consideration. First thing is the plans and specifications are done. We've been working with the county. They are the city sponsors. Since you are not a state aid eligible city, in other words, you have a population less than 5,000, the county sponsors you in some of these grant processes where you get some grant money to administer a project. The county has to be involved. So we've been coordinating directly with them on this project since you do have some of that funding, and they are ready to go, pretty darn close to advertising. They just need a couple things from us. One, they need authorization from the city council to move ahead. So one of the items tonight is to consider approving the plans and specs or accepting the plans and specs and authorizing advertising for bids. If we get that, we'll work at getting the project out for bids here in the next week or two. Take bids probably sometime around, hopefully in time for the February meeting, and we can bring them back and see where we end up as far as that goes. And as a reminder, this is for First Street North from First Avenue to Fifth Avenue, and Fifth Avenue North from Main Street to Fourth Street. So that's the project that we're referring to here. The other thing that the county needs from us, actually the county doesn't need it, state aid needs it. So certain types of funding require us to design to certain standards for various reasons. And one of the things that, in this case, we have to design to state aid standards. I don't want to get into all of the details of what that all means. I'll answer questions certainly if you have them. But the long and the short of it is, a little history lesson. Back a few years ago now, when we started into the citywide street infrastructure program, the city adopted a standard for the city for all of our east-west streets to be 32 feet wide, curb face to curb face. All of the north-south avenues, curb face to curb face, 36 feet wide. So that's what's been constructed throughout town over the last several years, and that's what we're continuing to do when we are putting together the design for this project. That allows for enough room for two-lane traffic, parking on one side of the road. You guys currently have calendar parking in the wintertime. That's not a problem. In the summertime, if you go around and people are parked on both sides, it gets a little tight. But not a lot of traffic on the city street, so it usually works okay. For state aid standards, that doesn't. They want to make sure that there's flow of traffic and everything that happen, and that's just how what we have to abide by. So we've got a few different options. Of course, we could say no parking, which I don't think anybody wants to do that. We could say you're only going to park on one side year round. We've marked one side of the road, no parking. We've got our 2 lanes of the parking. Or we could consider going to year round calendar parking on those streets. That would meet the intent of the state aid standard, and we'd be able to move ahead with that. So Jeff and I visited about it a little bit, and I guess that is the recommendation that, as your engineer, I would bring forward. It seems to be the least intrusive, at least in my mind, because the public's already familiar with that policy. They do it 6 months out of the year anyway. So you could handle it that way, or if you have a different way, by all means. But I was just trying to figure out what would be the easiest here to accommodate the requirements of state aid, as well as not make it incredibly intrusive to the public. So if that's the direction I just need something tonight, if possible. I need something tonight addressing that situation, so that I can, in the form of a resolution, that I can get back to the state aid so they'll sign off on it. So that's the second thing. And maybe I'll stop there before I talk about anything else, to see if anybody's got any questions first. I got one other thing I have to discuss, but I'll stop there. Questions on?
So is that for First Street or for the app? For the state aid for parking? Both. I was just curious, how would that line up with the existing First Street width? Because like now, is First Street from Fifth Avenue to 8th Avenue? How would that design, and then how would it tie in together so that it would? Because people are going to park how they're going to want to park, you know. And even if it's calendar parking year round, are people going to abide by it? And you know, that was my own question.
It'll line up better than it does now. It'll line up straight on, so it should work. Yeah. And truth be told, for the purposes of this exercise, to meet the intent, you wouldn't even have to put calendar parking or do anything with anything other than the limits of this project. So if you chose to just take First Street and just put this limitation from First Avenue to Fifth Avenue, you could do that. The rest of First Street could stay just the way it is now, if you want. So it's completely up to you how you want to handle it. The bottom line is what state aid is looking at is they don't want to see cars parked on both sides with a lane too narrow to where. So and typically those standards are set up for a little bit higher volume roads. City of Biwabik has relatively low volume roads. That said, these are the standards we have to abide by in order to get the fund. Yeah. So we could certainly widen all the streets and get parking on both sides full time, but I don't know that that's the direction we want. So
How much did that increase the project cost by?
like all the way, quite a bit. I'd say by 20%.
There's no more questions. We can move to the next.
Okay, so then the third part of this discussion is we had gone through the process when we started all down this path. We were following the Chapter 429 special assessment process. We had a public hearing, I think it was in July of 2023, June, July of 2023, so a little over a year ago, year and a half ago. The statute reads that unless we state differently in the resolution, that if you don't have the project out for bids or awarded within a year of the public hearing, you've got to go back and do the public hearing. So if the plan is still to move ahead with the potentially with the assessment process like we've done on other phases, then I would recommend we go ahead and get the advertising going, but then try to set a special or schedule a public hearing to have another public hearing to meet that intent of the Chapter 429 process. We can do that concurrently, but just as long as we set that public hearing, have the public hearing, get the input prior to awarding the project. If by chance there's no appetite for going down the process of assessments on this project, then you would extra step of having a public hearing. But just recognize that if that's the direction that we had, and that whatever is totally fine with me. If we don't follow the process, we cannot at the end of the project, we will not do special assessments. So that's the only other consideration for tonight. That if we think we may want to consider that path, that we should try to come up with a date where we can have a public hearing sometime between now and the February meeting, if possible, to just present the project again, present all the revised costs and all of that.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, we had no intention of doing the assessment, but we were following the process just in case we had to.
Correct, Mayor and Council. The council we did go through the statute 429 process to that point because you can't go back and do it. So we had to do that. There wasn't a formal decision made, but the general conversation, general consensus was because so many of these properties have an existing special assessment from previous phases, and then generally assessed based on lineal footage of flooding the property. In this case, a big chunk of that lineal footage is city property. The block that the pavilion's on. So before you did the assessment, you subtract out city footage, and then the rest would be left over. At the end of the day, the amount assessed against the properties would probably not be enough to make it worth that process. You got to go through all that process. You got to tack on additional assessment. Then you got to track it for 20 years with the county if they come in for properties. So, a little bit of hesitance that it's something we might regret not doing it, but maybe 1%. I believe it was pretty well understood that it wasn't.
That was the way.
Okay. The only other thing I might add to that is just as a reminder that we do have 1.4 million in grant from the bonding bill, and we have $926,000 in addition to that from another direct appropriation from legislators. So 2.2 and 250 my trip was. So we've got almost. So as of right now, we've got 2.5 and it's difficult, to be honest, on this one. Not a lot of utility. So that's all I got. Anyway, unless anybody has any questions.
Parking. That might be jumping ahead. Wouldn't it be confusing for the citizens if you only had half of First Street calendar parking and the rest doing what they want? And the other question I have is it possible to specify the state? I'm just thinking, to have just one, instead of calendar parking, just have one side where the parking is on the other.
Yep.
Is that a
Certainly
possibility?
could do that. And to your first question, yes, I wouldn't necessarily recommend something different on half of each. But could be done if you didn't want to restrict it on. Anything else?
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, mayor and council member reports. Council Berg.
Got two things this month. Jeff, you told me January 11th. I won't have any more phone calls at home about a logging truck that's wrecking in the neighborhood. Because of the 40 days or that's the date. Thank you. In 2 months ago, the council directed the city to take care of 2 resident issues. One was the brush pile, the other was the deflectors, etc. on city property. I haven't heard a word, so I'm assuming both of those will take care. You don't know if the brush pile is taken care of? I haven't been down. I don't. I haven't heard a word negative, positive. I'm assuming both residents are happy and city happy. 2 months ago. Let somebody know, right or wrong. One more thing. When we grant a liquor license, is there a certain number of months that has to happen before we serve the beer? Or before it gets rejected? I mean, it's been like 8 months we granted a liquor license. I haven't heard a word, negative or positive. Back in the day when we used to have 9, 10, 11 liquor places, we might have had an issue. Now we don't have it. Does it just sit there? Or do we have to make a motion to deny it? I mean, we've approved European cuisine about 8 months ago. I've heard nothing. So I don't know. Does it just sit there forever? It's city council granted, right? So why did we go? Why did we go through the motion to do it? What I'm saying is, do we have to take that back? I don't know. I just asked one.
What? Got that granted.
So it's over.
Whoa.
Okay.
Mayor,
I'm just asking, so we may come up with this in the future.
Mayor and council, we may want to just fully put the council made a motion approving that liquor license. They haven't done anything. So if they come in tomorrow morning and fill that out, I don't know if that's bad. If they come in in the middle of July and fill it out, the motion was there. I don't know what a sunset period is on.
That's why I'm asking. I don't know what happens in the past, what we've done. I just know I've never eaten a European set.
Guarantee you never will.
Just ask it. I don't know.
We approved the city portion of it, but they never followed through with the alcohol and gambling enforcement. So if we have to, I don't think we have to rescind it. It just didn't, it was contingent on their following through with the rest of their process, which they did not do. And uh, without getting into too much, they won't be doing any sort of business in this community. Is that something we can do for the next?
Maybe you should put it in February. That's why I asked, is there a time break? And from what I've heard so far, there is no time. Yeah, and I think although, I mean, highly unlikely that it would happen, but if they come in tomorrow morning and say, hey, we're here to fill it out, and I don't know that we could, that,
I can personally assure you that that is not going to
oh, right, and it's, I mean, very, very unlikely that it happens. But I just asked, this thing happened back in the day, there was quite a few liquor licenses. So we have many days, we don't have many days.
Is that all, Council?
That's it.
Council Lee?
I got really nothing. Just want to thank the public for voting me in, and hopefully I can do what they wanted me to do and make some improvements at the city. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nemi?
No, I don't have it.
I'll keep mine quick as we're kind of turning over tonight. I do want to welcome Councilor Lehman to the council and welcome back Councilor Berg. Real quick, I know it's going to be kind of take some time to getting used to turning on and off the mics, but we'll get there. We didn't buy the $90,000 system, so we wouldn't have to do that. So, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I do have some expectations of starting on time. I do have some expectations of if you're going to address the council, please come to the podium. If we're unsure of who you are, state your name for the record. But I don't think we need to go through the address process. We're a little bit small for that, which is good. And I do have an expectation that there will not be any chatter in the audience. I appreciate everybody backing me up. So the only things I have is that I know that recycling has been a very enormous issue to everybody in town. And that is, I'd like to say that that's not to our fault. That is being worked on with law enforcement and with the county. So we as a city do not operate recycling. We just happen to have bins that are operated by County Environmental Services on city property. So just so everybody is aware of that process, and that is being worked on and looked into. One of the things that was in the strategic plan, and I think is needed, is coming up, is possibly doing a town hall style meeting and input, hopefully in early spring here, and doing something at the pavilion similar to when we had the town hall type discussion regarding police services. So that is potentially coming up. Administrator and I are looking into possibly using Northspan or somebody to facilitate that meeting, as they are professionally good at that. So more to follow on that. And the only other thing I've got is, and I've told this to just about everybody I've talked to, 2025 has already started, so we're done. I don't want to make decisions that are affecting 2025 anymore. I want to look to 2030 and 2035 and how that's going to affect our community in the long run. And that is what I ran on, and continue to follow through with that. So, yeah, so with that, we will move on. Item 9, old business. There is none. We will move on to new business. Item 10A, resolution 2025-2 to set ambulance rates. This was in your packet. There's some adjustments. like to see a motion to approve the 2025-2. I'll just leave them on.
I'll take you all year, but we'll get there.
Batteries are expensive.
I'll save on batteries.
We do have a motion to approve the resolution. Do I have a second? I will second the motion.
And Mayor and Council, just a quick point of information. So these are incremental increases to try to keep up. One of the things that we continue to work on is the nature of ambulance billing. Is that these are our set rates for a very large percentage of the runs that we go on. The rate is determined by the payer, not the service. That payer being the federal government. So one of the issues that we continue to work on, and that I know is going to be a hot topic in the legislature, is increasing those Medicare reimbursements. Would be much better for us financially if these were the rates that we received for all the runs that our crew goes on. But the reality is that we receive far less.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, give a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes. Item 10B, resolution appointing planning and zoning commission members. So our planning commission, everybody had requested to re-up. We kind of got into a bit of a everybody expiring at once, which doesn't happen very often, and shouldn't again. So in the resolution in front of you, it does state terms expiring in different years. And we had a letter of interest from Mary Riley to fill the zoning commission seat vacated by Chris Wyckoff. She retired after this year. Motion by Councilor Berg, second by Councilor Namey to approve resolution 25-3. Is there any discussion?
Just like to thank Mr. Friday for
And I would like to thank Chris Wyckoff for her time served. If there's no more discussion, Shannon, can I get a roll call, please?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Resolution is approved. Resolution 2025-4, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bid citywide reconstruction phase 6. Everybody was presented with that information.
Support.
We have a motion by Councilor Berg, seconded by Councilor Lehman to approve 2025-4. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question. When you said 2.5, so the city's got to come up with 76,000.
The estimate that you have is construction and contingency. There's some other project costs involved. That said, these are still estimates. We'll have to wait and see what the bids come in at. But the short answer is yes, the city will have to come up with some, unless they come in really good, which we could cross our fingers for. The city will likely have to come up with some share to the project. Yes. Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? John, you got to go to the podium. I think Matt's got the answer for that.
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, so there was several years ago there was money put aside by the legislature for St. Louis County to do a reconnect of but the Whiskey Road. When County Road 715 was obliterated, they knew that they had planned on doing a reconnection of Highway 4 moving from town. And that was in there for a decade or more. After several meetings, that project was deemed unnecessary. Nobody was willing so it's not necessary to spend that money to do that connection. So of that money, there was 1.5 million that was transferred to the city of Biwabik for use on their streets. $1 million of that went to Main Street, our city's portion of Main Street, in that project. That was other money for some previous street project, but there is $200,000 that was set aside for street projects from that money. But there's the short answer to the question is that there is money remaining from that website for street. For the language is for Biwabik Street.
Did you get that, John? Any more discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, can roll call, please.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes. Item 10D, Resolution 2025-5, establishing provisions for the parking of vehicles in the city of Biwabik.
And Mayor and Council, without a whole lot of time for discussion or anything with the council before drafting this resolution, it's put in there as a suggestion. Certainly be changed after the presentation that we had from Matt Reed. So the change that's written in this resolution is that we would just have counter parking around on Fifth Avenue. That would meet those state aid standards. Having one set of rules on First Street from First to Fifth and a different from Fifth to Eighth sounds really problematic. There are occasionally issues and questions about the parking on First Street. Keep in mind, First Street is the free run down. As whether it's a official detour or just people going through there, not stopping at stop signs or blocks. It's a nice run down there. But if you've got vehicles parked on both sides, boats, something like that parked there, it can be problematic. There's concern sometimes. So we'll cover those issues just by this one change in this resolution. I would say that there will definitely be, not everyone will like that. There will be some concerns, whether it's flooded property owners or not. It's going to 100% make everybody happy. There's some drawbacks, but the advantage of it is, as I said, it'll meet the requirements. It'll be uniform at least for that full run of First Street, and it'll alleviate some of those other concerns or complaints we've had on parking on First Street.
Do we have to set that tonight, or are we just approving it so we can get the state aid and get everything rolling, and then like later on set like parking on one side or the other side, no counter parking, or what's set this is set?
No, you could do that. You still have to, whatever the changes, you'd have to meet those state aid, but it comes out that no, we just want to make the south side and the east side no parking. You can only park on one side. You'd be able to change it for that.
I'll make the motion, Mr. President.
I will support that. Is there any discussion?
It'd be easier to calendar for performance. We need all the cameras, training, phones, and computers.
And Mayor and Council, I think that warrants some real discussion coming here. The other thing, big topic from last year, we've got that new street sweeper now, and I'm using frequently, and that's a real common rationale for year-round calendar parking is summer maintenance, street cracks and stuff like that. So that would be another advantage to that, people that without winding through those streets. Again, not gonna make everybody happy. It's not gonna be universally loved, but definitely warrants it.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds on it. It's not part of the this resolution, but I think that is a absolutely fantastic idea. It's something we should probably. I mean, we do have a motion and, I believe a second. Approving the resolution as presented, which does state the first and fifth calendar parking year round. I think Councilor Bird is right. That will eliminate a lot of the issues that we continue to discuss. And we can always come back and revisit this, possibly sooner than later. If there's any more discussion on the resolution. Yeah, hearing none. Shannon, roll call vote, please.
Nick.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes. Item 10E, Resolution 2025-6, authorizing a grant application to the IRRB Public Works Grant Program. In your packets, you'll see that this is a Public Works grant for the Phase 6 of the citywide reconstruction projects. If there's anything to add on that, Jeff?
Yeah, Mayor and Council. So the citywide reconstruction, for several years now, we've been on the tracks of designing the project, getting the project taken care of with our engineer, while also exploring all avenues of funding and going after that with our engineering firm. This one has been kind of unique. We were able to get the $1.4 million out of the state appropriation, the $926,000 out of a federal appropriation. Through some lobbying efforts and some joint efforts with the engineering firm, and then we're able to leverage that with a $250,000 grant from IRRR that's been awarded. And at an earlier meeting, former Mayor Weichman and I talked with the current commissioner, who encouraged us to definitely go after additional grant funds to increase that. Following the IRRR grant cycle and the grant awards for the past several years, and in the past year, increasing grant awards for a project that's already been awarded has been done frequently at IRRR. So we will be going after additional grant funding for this project on top of
We have a motion by Councilor Berg, seconded by Councilor Nemi to approve Resolution 2025-6. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, or I'm sorry, roll call, Shannon. Aye. Resolution passes. Moving on to item 10F, approval of updated stipend rates for fire and ambulance personnel.
And Mayor and Council, again, these are incremental increases in these fees. The ambulance fund is operated as an enterprise fund, self-sustaining fund. These were accounted for in the budget that was by.
Support.
A motion by Councilor Nemi, seconded by Councilor Berg to approve the updated stipend rates. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, Larry, can I even vote on that? Being Mr. Chief, that came from the fire department, EMS. Oh, it's David. Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier.
Yeah, good catch. Motion carries. Item 10G, approval of fire and EMS department hiring committee interviewed Paige Nelson on December 30th as for EMT position and is recommending that she be hired.
So move.
Moved by Councilor Berg, supported by Councilor Nemi to approve the hire. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10H, accept resignation from the fire and ambulance department. Jason Lottie has submitted a written resignation from the fire department. We have a motion and second to accept the resignation. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of fire equipment service test agreement, fire cats.
I haven't seen it back.
I thought I seen.
I've never seen it. So
Chief Mackey, I didn't have a equipment service test. Did I just see it maybe on your desk?
there,
So do we want to just postpone this until February? I'll make a motion we postpone until February. Have a motion and second to postpone this until February meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action on Biwabik campground operations. The amenities coordinator, city administrator, and campground liaison discussed rate changes and dates. I recommend that we approve this. Moved by Councilor Berg, supported by Councilor Neepy
get the campers there.
to approve the rate changes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10K, approval of letter of support for Town of White grant application. As everybody can see, they're looking for regional letters of support for adding to the trail system. Does not affect the city of Biwabik, but it's a neighboring community and it does connect to our trail system and gets to part of our regional trail. So, motion moved by Councilor Nemi, supported by Councilor Lehman to approve letter of support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10L, approve ambulance purchase. Everything is in your packets. The ambulance fund supports this new purchase. For anybody that is unaware, our current unit 1 is out of service, probably will be forever. It's also nearly 20 years old, and it should have been replaced a long time ago. So they are requesting the proposal of a new ambulance, which is, I believe, the lead time was May of 26. Date.
2 years. Forget it. 2 years.
And it's increasing. Yeah, the ambulance fund has the funds currently to purchase this. The actual payment, of course, isn't due till delivery. The ambulance fund has the dollars in it today to purchase it.
I will support that.
Took you twice for.
Sorry, Chief.
There is a motion and a second to approve the ambulance purchase. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10M, consideration of proposal of fire engine. And as everybody noticed, that they were both on the same quote, but as Chief Mackey could say, was the reason if we were to purchase two pieces of equipment at the same time, there'd be somewhat of a discount involved. That was to bring awareness to the situation we were in with our fire trucks. So, Chief Mackey, if you want to fill us in.
Yeah, so the proposal itself is about $40,000 difference than if you buy them separately. The fire truck, it's engine one. It's our primary engine. It's a 1990. We had a similar truck that was a 1989, almost identical. It had some issues. It went down in 2017. So we were able to get the Quint to replace that in 2021. At the time when we went through that discussion, that same spec fire truck was $680,000. So I wanted to bring awareness to A, 5 years later, it's almost double. And the biggest thing we've struggled with is some of the components on the truck. The differential is leaking, transmission is leaking. We had the truck down for about a year, working through a transmission problem that ended up being the throttle cable. And you can't get the throttle cable OEM anymore. So our service support technician came up with something on his own to make it work. It doesn't quite work the way it's intended, but it does get us from point A to point B still for now. So that's the gist of it, is the continued cost, kind of what we're staring down in terms of how much more money do you put into that truck. It's 34 years old, coming on 35 years old. There's some other points on the truck that it's an open cab. That standard changed in 1991, the 90. So there's definitely some other things to consider as far as updating the equipment, not just from a cost standpoint, but the safety and, quite frankly, just an up-to-date and reliable piece of apparatus. That's kind of the skinny. I'm open to questions, of course, some.
Council questions?
What? Brand new ambulance, brand new fire. I would put it in that building over there that collapsed. I mean,
Do you mean physical dimensions? Or
no, not dimension wise, but the
dollar
building's older than Johnny. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying.
just creating a visual reference.
That I wouldn't want to park a new truck in there.
So I definitely don't disagree with your logic. I kind of go back and forth. Do you get the new fire hall at some point in time, or take care of the building situation, we'll say, but all the equipment you're going to put in it is broke?
I understand you.
And Mayor and Council, they mentioned some stuff earlier about working with their engineer on funding. We do currently have, there was $1 million appropriation for the city of Biwabik for some of the preliminary work for a new public safety building in the last legislative session. They're gearing up for another legislative session right now. Bonding bill has been kind of a hot topic as we're going into that, and we've got some stuff in the works with our engineering firm to go after additional bonding dollars for our public safety. The Councilor Berg said it's in rough shape. I'm not going to mention the age of it, but it is definitely in need of replacement, and that is something that we've got our eyes on.
Yeah, one other piece, kind of in reference to that buildings, as we travel that process, whatever that might look like, that would be actually one of my concerns. Is what you brought up. Is, are you really going to be able to talk about replacing a piece of fire apparatus after? You're going to get some dollars. That's the goal, right? But that's also going to be a pretty big cost. So now you have a 40-year-old fire truck.
So what was the delivery time on this?
32 to 35 months. Yeah, and that actually improved just based on the truck specification that we worked on. I won't say it's watered down, but it was pretty basic. We understood our needs of our town, our needs of the missiles, so to speak. So because of the lower amount of option content, they move it into a different assembly line, if you will, because it's a lot more simple, straightforward, standard build. Because originally we were building like 42 to 49 months. apply to a set-up process. So, but yeah, you're 3 years. I'm thinking long term, like we're talking about 2028.
And I appreciate that. And that is a 35-year investment also.
And I think at some point, talking a little bit into the future, is the longer we wait on this one, the other fire apparatus that we have, 75-foot ladder, I would fully anticipate we probably find a different use piece of equipment at some point, a little bit more investigation. Probably take some more money rather than dump all the money into fixing it. But the longer we wait on this one, the closer those two get together. To the point, I'd say you got about 10-ish years before you're gonna have to consider something there on that piece of apparatus. So it seems like a long time, but if you order this today at 3 years, that's only 7 before you're talking about. That probably gets used, but
And Mayor and Council, this is on the agenda as a discussion item tonight. Partially because this is a pretty big project, pretty big decision. We have not gone through this process. I've been here since '07. We have not gone through the process in my time. So it's kind of, blazing new trails here. So it's a discussion item, but I'd like to get some feedback on the council on what you want to see as a next step. I don't want generally this involves some type of a truck committee or something like from the department. Don't want to have them sit down and get their committee together and have a bunch of meetings. Council doesn't want to see it or doesn't want to move forward with that. So it'd be nice to have some consensus on do we want to get a committee together, do we want the department to come back with some recommendations. There's other financing and grant stuff that I can kind of add to that I'm sure the council's going to want to see. But it's quite a bit of legwork to be done on that. I think the staff and the department should have some consensus from the council of what he wants.
I'll talk a little bit on the purchasing process. That, yeah. So the proposal you have in front of you for both the ambulance and the fire truck separately, they have two different systems, or one's called SAVIC, one's called HGAC. There's different consortium group purchasing plans. Those are all pre-bid, so every vendor comes into a system and puts their bid in. So that's what allows us to follow the rules of municipal purchasing, but you actually go through and sit down with someone, lay out, okay, here's what you want, here's the cost of that. That pricing comes out and it's available publicly through their consortium for group purchasing programs. So that's kind of what you see. Like you probably saw the lingo on the ambulance proposal with SAVIC. That's what that means or what that is. It's the mechanism in which you purchase it. And same thing for HVAC or source wall for a fire truck. Some of you guys probably source wall to purchasing. So that's the legwork. We have had a couple of truck committees over the years. This process actually started it didn't make it very far. But Jeff's one, I don't think that was, there was no communication or follow-up after that. So we kicked it up a couple of times since then. This is, yeah, kind of where we're at. It would be good to have some direction. Council, I think.
I don't want to be talking 5 years from now about our 39-year-old truck and the price of a new one being $2.5 million, which is kind of where we're at from last time around. I know that much. I don't necessarily have the answer today. I don't think anybody else does. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are. Maybe
on your pricing increases, the industry has saw 1.5% to 2% per quarter, so 6%, 6 to 8% annually. Just rough math, in the next 2 years, if we just let it sit, it would be from the 1.22 price to 1.38 170 grand more for the same truck. But that's at least what the industry has been the last 4 years. That's kind of what we got here.
I thought that we need to move forward on this. The connection with it is, as a counselor, I'd like to know about money available. I want to grant any other type of money that's available, not just for the fire truck, but for the fire hall. And I'm thinking we're missing out on some stuff, and we need to be applying for this, help pay for this. We got 32 to 35 months, but I agree that we keep waiting. The price is going to go up, and I already know what's happened to this fire truck, and I'm not an expert on it, but I can figure it out. And I think we can move forward. As to how to do it, I'm really not sure. I don't know if you need a council workshop or we just direct the city administrator, the fire chief, and the fire workers to see. I don't know. I don't have.
So for a little bit of information in your question about the grants, we submitted this to be the third year. We did 2 and we wrote the grants for a couple of years, which we were unsuccessful in the last attempt. Hence, we're here looking at purchasing once we tried the same program. So assistant firefighter grants. Jeff has been very immersed in that in the last 5 years. We've been successful on one. That's a highly competitive program. There's about 350 million available nationwide. They award 1,000 awards, 12,000 applicants. The vehicle portion of it, there's a set criteria on how we break it down. How much can go to vehicles, how much can go to vehicles and rural communities. So it's very much split up. And we have had 2 failed applications, or unsuccessful, I should say. We have 1 pending right now. I can speak to what a neighboring community did. They put the grant in, and then they moved forward on it. With the plan of, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to pay for it. But they put in for the grant, and if they got the grant, of course, that pays a considerable chunk. If they didn't, they have gone for it, figuring out how to pay for it. That's right now. We do have 1 application in for piece of fire apparatus engine. The max award for some reference is $1 million. So even that program has been very, very challenging, very competitive. Just so you're aware that we definitely have these applications to find the funding.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Jeff, I mean, I guess we do have a few other time to figure out money wise, but 1.2 million, a lot for the city. Are we gonna be able to have that money available for us, for purchase? And plus, say if we have other additional issues with purchasing public works or anything else, city.
So on this truck, there's basically two potential sources of funding with maybe some minor ones along the way. The big one would be the FEMA AFT grant, and that would be the by far the greatest thing. That 95.5 match, we get the truck. It caps out at $1 million, so we're still looking at a decent chunk. Or we got to pay for the whole thing. There's not a whole lot of other grants out there just for vehicle. So we're looking at either trying to come up with 5% of the 1.2 million. At that point, you can do some levying for the capital improvement and stuff like that. At 1.2 million or 1.4 million, whatever it comes in at, we're looking at coming up with that. We're most likely looking at a bonding, which is borrowing. So then what the council will need to see is what that bond schedule looks like. It's going to be a decent amount, spread it out over 20, 25, 30 years and look at those options. And we generally work with Northland. We've worked with Northland Securities on our bonding since 02. That's when Voyager Creek went in. So we'd want to bring in the folks from Northland Security to go with the bonding scenario look like, but you're looking at significant payments on it.
So it'd be worth having a budget.
There is one other mechanism offered through PNC Finance. That's a lease option. I mean, I certainly would get those and I'll just turn them over to Jeff. Typically, the lease purchase option doesn't compete with a bond in terms of it's just cheaper bonding, right? But certainly pull that up and they'll do 15-year leases. And I'll if you get that, so send it to them. It's just another option. Typically not a best one, but it's
But if, I mean, rough numbers on a bonding situation, if we're gonna bond for, call it 1.4 million on 20 years, looking at between 75 and 100,000 a year. Interest rate. Looking at single digit percent increase in the levy on that.
Would anybody be opposed to coming up with maybe a truck task force? Or we don't use committee a lot, but coming up with that, exploring options to bring back to the council. We will look into that, go that road, and come back to the full council. And as Councilor Nimi had suggested earlier, probably going to be a workshop type situation. So,
thank you.
thank you, appreciate it.
I got a question. Are you going to appoint that task force now? Or
I absolutely could.
that way it gets the ball rolling.
Yes, absolutely.
I do think one of the budget.
I would agree with that as well. The obviously the administrator, Chief Mackey, and then counselor slash two hats. I know that feeling all too well. And I would also like to sit on that committee, or sorry, task force as well. If anybody has any other thoughts, by all means, let me know. And we can adjust that or discuss it, go with it.
And then, Mayor Council, just to add, and I'm assuming it would be, you'd be okay with the chief and the officers internally selecting the folks that would be on the department and to stay working with the same people, and the chief would be able to take the department.
Absolutely. And that will turn into the council workshop probably near future. Say very near future, but near future. Open public forum. Is there any comment from anybody from the public? If so, please at the podium. Hit the little button there if you would, so we can hear it.
Good meeting.
Thank you.
Second of all, some other ones are wireless. Somebody like me that's deaf, there's only a couple that really stand out. To bring your mics in a little bit closer, it'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Big square one on the bottom, John.
We'll
There
be
you go.
gone anyhow. Jeff, this Main Street, Florida City Council, why is it that we have to wait so long to get the snow removal? Why?
Mayor and council, the current wait is partially due to our policy actually states that the main street, that the sidewalks are the responsibility of the abutting property owner, but as a courtesy, the public works crew will come back and do that as time allows. It's been that way for a few years. I believe it's time to update that. For a decent chunk of the sidewalk, the abutting property owner is the city, give them a public space. But other than that, it does become a safety concern and kind of a supporting the community concern will be that. So, I will most likely be coming back with some suggestions on that policy. In the meantime, if there's no objection, kind of set that policy aside a little bit to bump that up on the priority list. But I believe it should be kind of formalized.
Okay, especially by the post office. That's the worst place of all. You know, between the post office and west up to the Uncle Jim's bar right there. You gotta walk down the main street with the traffic going.
Which one was Uncle Jim's bar?
I'll go back farther. I'll go back farther. Back farther. All right, that's all I got to say.
Thanks, John. I will say I did email Jeff about this specific issue about a week and a half ago, and we didn't get the snow and ice policy revision on this agenda tonight. But hopefully, we'll have something to remove the language of as a courtesy. And I do think it's important that we as a city take care of our business districts and especially the people visiting those businesses, as I've had multiple complaints from people outside of the city as well, saying, geez, I can't even stop and get a pizza in your town because I can't get out of my car. So I did speak with the administrator on that. We should hopefully have that language for the next meeting. So, but I do think in the meantime, we should just get it taken care of.
And Mayor and Council, the other half of that equation is the equipment side of it. We have done some equipment. We've done an upgrade on the piece of for the toolcat that we use for removing that snow. There's some other options available that we probably look into equipment wise for salting, sanding, other things on those sidewalks. But that'll be done in conjunction with that policy.
Okay. There's nothing.
Well, hello. I really appreciate what you had to say about looking to the future, involving 30 years on, what have you, anything else. It's important that we look at that, especially when we consider everything going on around us. It might seem a little out of the ordinary, but technology is improving at such an incredible pace. We have to stay ahead of the game. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here in the dark, and it'll be a continuation of what we've seen for a long time. I grew up in a research community a very long time ago because, well, I'm almost a geezer. I'm 40. Oh, my. That besides, there's a lot to consider moving forward. We really don't want to sit here in the dark. We really appreciate to see that this is being considered. And I love what you had to say, Fire Chief Mackey. I said that right. I'm bad at things. Yes, I really like what you put forward. And if I was some kind of counselor, I'd say from your research and everything, because I've been around grant writing and everything else and studying that. That's a handful. So there we go. Said my 2 words.
Thanks, Chris. If there's nothing else, everybody's favorite motion. I have a motion from Councilor Nemi to adjourn. Do I have a second? Support by Councilor Lehman. All in favor? Aye.